Let's just hop in. So happy New Year, everybody. Very excited to have 2020 behind us and really excited about what this year potentially brings for this industry. We've seen a ton of interest with new buyers. I'm sure everybody on this call, if you're not a buyer, if you're an intermediary, you've seen the same thing that hopefully will only accelerate through the new year. Just because of the amount of people who are interested in doing something new, looking at an acquisition, and then the activity that we've seen with private equity and with strategics, with companies looking to buy other companies. All of that has really ramped up, and we don't see the access to capital being restricted in any form or fashion going forward. So let's all cross our fingers and hope for a good year. I know we are, and we're planning on it. So happy New Year. We're going to do a lot of things differently this year. We have some exciting updates coming out this quarter, which we'll let you know about on these lunch and learns as they're unveiled with the BizNexus platform and with what we're doing with the agency. But I think what we're going to start doing is really we're going to have monthly themes, right? So we're going to have this month we're going to be touching on sales follow-up strategy, and that's based on feedback, but also based on just personally, I've seen so many intermediaries in particular just missing this, right? Looking at deal origination as if it's a short game and just having a system in place for making an approach and then forgetting about prospects. And that's just not the way the world works today, right? It's an increasingly internet-driven world. It's very noisy out there. You have to have a system in place for staying in front of your prospects, not only a marketing system, a nurturing system, but a sales process. So that's what we're going to focus on this month is the sales follow-up strategy. And today we'll talk about just kind of setting up your sales playbook. So hopefully this is valuable. As we do this series, I will ask anybody who's on the call today to just submit the feedback so that we can course correct. If something is off on this call, we have 3 more in the series to make it valuable. So let's all work together to try to keep these things valuable. For the new people on the call, who am I? Why should you care? I run BN.Digital. That is our agency for off-market deal origination. We focus exclusively on M&A. Our clients are private equity, family office, intermediaries, independent buyers. This is all we do. Off-market deal origination with the agency, and then BizNexus is our platform for auction-based deal flow. We focus primarily on the BN.Digital side on these calls. We'll touch on BizNexus because those two value props overlap in the overarching theme of deal origination, but we will stick with off-market deal origination. Let's say for 90% of these lunch and learns, that's what you're in for. We do it through a process called social selling. Most people are familiar with that, but for whatever reason, this industry, it really has not been leveraged, right? If you can set yourself apart, especially as an intermediary in this industry, you have a real chance at getting ahead of the pack, getting ahead of your competitors, because the large majority of people in this industry, whether you're talking about Main Street or middle market, they're just not doing it well. And Main Street, I think it's not something that has traditionally been done. I think a lot of intermediaries will focus on the top of the funnel lead generation and have no system in place for staying in front of their prospects over time, for building value, building the personal brand, leveraging that over time. And now with the middle market, there are a lot of people who just, they still don't have a taste for it. Even with COVID, getting online, posting, it's valuable. And that's where the industry is going. And in my opinion, you can hop on now, or you can just wait until it's really the norm. I think that's already happened with COVID. But this is where the world is going, and better to get out in front of the pack sooner than later, in my humble opinion. We do this through a 5-stage social selling process that is reflective of my personal view that deal origination is a long game, right? You just have to stay in touch with these prospects because you know that the majority of them are not going to be ready for your offering at first pass. So I'm not going to go through the 5 stages. If you want to go back to square one and learn about the 5 stages of the social selling process, I'd encourage you to go back to the early lunch and learns. Those are all listed on our agency site. That's BN.Digital. Just head there and you'll be able to see all of our lunch and learns by topic. Everything that we talk about on these lunch and learns, we try to keep it short. We try to keep it sweet, but the topics do get pretty niche, and it's a lot of stuff that we're trying to cover. Just remember, everything that we are covering is always aimed at getting one thing, and that's the proverbial cup of coffee, right? The transitioning your online relationship that you've been building up and reinforcing with posting, with retargeting advertising, with strategic connections, getting that to turn into a real world engagement at the right time, right? So getting the Zoom, the phone call, the in-person meeting, whatever that means for you in today's crazy world. We work with a funnel. This is, if you're not familiar with the funnel concept, again, I'd encourage you to go back to previous lunch and learns, just because we don't have the time to cover the whole concept. But really at the top of the funnel, it's a cold conversation, someone who you just met and you're exchanging a business card and you want to learn more. And mid to bottom of the funnel is that process for learning more, right? For getting to know each other, offering social proof, and getting to the point where they're ready to sit down and have that proverbial cup of coffee. So that's it. That's the intro. Big updates, really same as we've been leading into. We have on our annual subscriptions in the agency, go check that out. We've got 20% off annual subscriptions. We do have a backlog on our nurturing funnel, but if you sign up and you're getting on board, when that happens, you can still get 50% off your onboarding fee. And then all of our agency clients do get platform access with the BizNexus platform for your buy side work. If you're an intermediary, or if you're a buyout firm, you have all of the access and the project management that you'd need for your intermediary based deal flow. The deals on your website, we've had a lot of people using that, which is great. Some people like the bot that we have up on the site. Some people not so much. If you have feedback, please submit that at the end of this lunch and learn, because that's an ongoing debate, whether we want to have a bot for you with your listings that you add on your site. How to access our services, BizNexus.com, BN.Digital. So where are we today? We are in the nurture and capture phase. That's where we're going to be all month, right? So this slide is not going to change all month. We're just talking about sales follow-up. And today's going to be the intro where we're really just setting up the playbook. And I'm going to give you some tips, but let's start, it's at the base level, sales versus marketing. For this month, we're primarily talking about sales follow-up, right? I talk a lot about the marketing nurturing, the marketing follow-up, and that'll still be laced in the conversation that we're having here for the month, but really I want to focus on sales follow-up. We see a lot of people missing this, right? So sales follow-up, that's going to be the direct reach out to get the call, the meeting, that cup of coffee. It's going to be direct sales tasks that are created based on engagement, based on prospect engagement that signals this is an interested prospect. They've already been qualified. We know the value. Here's the task, right? That's sales follow-up. Marketing follow-up, that's nurturing, educating your prospect about who you are, what you do, how your services meet the pain points of your end prospect, right? Communicating value, right? Offering them value. So offering articles about, valuation, about the exit planning process, whatever it is that you're focused on, offering that value, and not just your own blog posts that you've written, but third-party sources that have authority, sharing those, really focusing on value. What's value for my end prospect? That's part of the marketing and the nurturing. And then reinforcement, everything I talk about reinforcement, that falls in the marketing bucket as well. I know I'm repeating myself for people who have been on this lunch and learn, but I do need to repeat this for the first time viewers. This 99% rule really plays out in deal origination. You have to assume that 99% of your prospects are not going to be ready to discuss anything about their exit, about their business valuation, about their business plans on first approach. And it still amazes me how many people in this industry, again, specifically with intermediaries, I hate to put a bullseye on the intermediaries because I'm working with them day in and day out, but there are so many intermediaries who just look at this as a short game, and they don't have any system in place for staying in touch with a large majority of their target prospects, like end prospects, business owners or referral prospects, financial advisors, accountants, lawyers. And you're missing out. If you're going to be in this industry for any duration of time, you need to have a system in place to make sure that you stay in front of those prospects. At first pass, they do not know you, right? This is a sensitive topic. You're talking about somebody who's been building up a business maybe for 30 years. Their confidentiality issues. They don't want their employees to know. They don't want their competitors to know. They're keeping this close to the chest. And this time of year, sure, we'll see a bump of business owners who had the holiday conversation. It's been a rough year. What's the plan? Let's get our ducks in a row, start talking about the exit options, exit strategy. I think there's a lot of that going on already. And that's where nurturing comes in, because maybe the people who are in your funnel and haven't been showing any activity, maybe they start showing activity now because you've been following the social selling process, because they know who you are, they know what you do, and whether you know it or not, you're front in line compared to some of your competitors who just haven't been doing this. So the exception to this rule is when there is some sort of life circumstance, right? So is there a divorce? Is there some sort of health issue that will prompt a business owner to need to sell on an accelerated timeline? Or maybe it's just a small business and they haven't done the planning. They don't know much about the process. But aside from life circumstances, it's pretty much dumb luck, right? You just nail somebody at the top on first approach, you nail somebody with timing. That can happen, that does happen, but the large majority of people, you're going to have to make sure you have this process in place, the follow-up strategy, sales and marketing. So back to the sales follow-up. What about the timeline, right? So setting up your sales playbook, first thing you have to think about is the timeline. Like how long are you going to follow up with these prospects from a sales standpoint? And what is your process for that? You don't want to follow up forever from a sales standpoint, right? Like ideally you get these prospects into your marketing funnel, whatever your nurturing funnel is, and then they're in there forever. And then you can have the tasks based on sales engagement. But it's just amazing how many intermediaries don't follow up at all from a sales standpoint, right? They'll send out an email, or they'll send out a drop note, and then maybe a telemarketing call, and that's it. The prospects are gone. And more often than not, we see intermediaries having somebody, an outsourced party, make that call and not them. So follow-up is a much needed process in Main Street in this industry. And we'll show you how to do that here. So how many follow-ups? I personally prefer 3. Sales industry is going to recommend more. Typically, you'll hear about 5-point, 10-point, 20-point sales follow-ups. In this industry, again, because you know that so many people are just not going to be ready at first pass, you do have to worry about brand damage. So you want to get your value prop in front of those sellers. You want to be direct. You want to make sure they know what you do and how your services meet their pain points, but you do want to be aware of brand damage, right? So if you're working with a third-party sales agency or marketing agency where they're really pushing a meeting, just be careful that they're not being too aggressive on the front end, on the sales end with cold prospects, because these business owners are going to be around for a while, right? And especially if you have a limited geographic territory that you're dealing with, you don't want to burn your reputation with your territory as business owners. You want to build up that reputation as somebody who provides value so you can get them when they're ready. So here's a sample strategy, and we'll send this deck out to everybody who's attending. But this is just a sample follow-up strategy for a drop note, right? For a snail mail. That's something that is very common in the world of intermediaries and search funds, and these fundless sponsors, where you'll get a list together and you'll send out the old-fashioned snail mail. It's effective. It's great. The one thing that I hate about it is it's just there's no data. It's not trackable. So we always recommend you follow up your drop note, your snail mail, with something that is trackable. So in this case, let's say that's an email, right? You send out the drop note and you wait for it to hit. You know the drop note hits. You don't know if the business owner has even received your drop note. You don't know if an admin just put it in the trash. You don't know if the business owner has received the drop note and they put it in the desk and they're saving it for a rainy day, which could be 2 years from now, right? So you want to make sure that you're getting them in a nurturing funnel, so that if that drop note landed in their desk, hopefully they're still seeing your brand, they're still seeing the reinforcement, and you're reminding them, hey, I'm here, and the drop note I sent you is sitting in your desk. So when you're ready, let's have that conversation. So I like to follow up with an email, right? If you know the drop note lands, maybe 2-3 days later, the email goes out. And obviously we want visibility on that email. You want to be able to see who's opened it, who hasn't opened it, so you can resend that email to whoever has not opened it. You want to make sure that you're maximizing the seller eyeballs that are seeing your value prop, right? Because you can't do that with a drop note. You have no idea. With an email, you can. And then after the email, if that hasn't resulted in a conversation, then maybe you get them into your social, right? So you reach out to them on LinkedIn, connect with them, and get them into your social network. From there, they're exposed to everything that we talk about here, right? With the ongoing posting, basically communicating that you are a qualified authority in the area of business acquisition and sale through social engagement, through social posting, right? They're in that funnel. Maybe day 7, if this is a qualified prospect, you lob in the personal call to introduce yourself, right? And then from there, you can send out an email inviting them to your webinar if you have one, right? The same way I could invite you to this webinar if you're a marketing prospect, and maybe I sent you a snail mail and I follow up with an email and I get you my LinkedIn and you're seeing my posting, and then I lob in a call and then I invite you to this webinar so I can help you with something that I know is a pain point for you, right? I'm offering value, and that is effective from a marketing standpoint, but it's also win-win, right? It's because I get to talk about my brand. I get to do what I do, which is I'm doing it for a reason. I love it. And I know that the people on this call have the choice to be on this webinar. So they have that pain point. After that, you don't want to burn your brand, right? You want to rely on marketing after your follow-up. And again, you'll have people who recommend more sales follow-ups. This is just the way I like to do it. And in this industry, I'm very conscious of the fact that this is a high ticket sale. You don't want to burn your brand with these business owners. The chances of nailing them at the exact right time, slim to none. And business owner at the end of the day in today's environment is not going to be sold on selling their business. They're either thinking about it and it's something that they're planning or not. And you want to position yourself to be that first go-to, but you can stay in front of them and you can make sure you engage them at the right time, but you're not going to pressure them into going down the sell path. So get them into your marketing, nurturing, engagement-based sales task, right? If you get them into your newsletter, if you get them into your email drip, if you have weekly webinars or Zooms, whatever your nurturing funnel is, you want to get them in there. And ideally, you are using a CRM that clearly identifies, hey, this person has opened this email 5 times. That's a sales task, right? This person has visited the Sell a Business page on your website 5 times. That's a sales task. That should all be automated. We want to do this across multi-channels, right? So this is not a random process. You want to have a SOP, right? A standard operating procedure for how you manage your qualified inbound prospects, right? So whatever you're doing at the top of the funnel, whatever you're doing from a marketing standpoint, I'm assuming that you're going to qualify those prospects. Once you've qualified them, is this a business owner that fits the bill? Are they in my area? Right? Then you need to have a standard operating procedure from a sales standpoint for getting in front of them and letting them know your value proposition, making an ask in a way that doesn't burn your brand. So, let's say you've qualified the prospect wherever they've come in from. If they, haven't come in on social, get them on social, right? Send them a personal email if they didn't come in on email. And then you have a sales call if they're qualified and if they have the engagement that you've seen on social and email. And then, maybe you can invite them into your Zoom or webinar. And the Zoom or webinar thing, this really is a blessing for the people who are leveraging this. If someone has attended a webinar and you've actually offered value, right? Or if you've had a Zoom call with somebody and you've gone back and forth and you've had that face-to-face, even though it's over a screen, this is a blessing that did not exist pre-COVID. The social selling really does work in this environment because people who have not traditionally been open to receiving this type of selling process absolutely are. And a lot of the business owners who would not be on LinkedIn or on LinkedIn, who would not be on Zoom or forced to be on Zoom. So a lot of these doors have opened. And if you've gotten on a Zoom or if someone has attended your webinar, if that's a qualified prospect and you're putting a call out there, that prospect is much less likely to bail on you, to ghost you, right? They're going to have a conversation because, I don't want to say obligation, but maybe there's a sense of obligation, right? They know that you've given value. They know what you're about. There's a degree of comfort. They've decided if you're fit for them or not to some degree. They're going to be much more likely to engage and answer a call, to have that proverbial cup of coffee if you are leveraging this channel. So if you're not doing Zooms, if you're not doing webinars, I would recommend it. And I'd recommend that you use that in your outreach if you can. So some random tips, some random advice before we close out the playbook section of this first installment of our January series. So again, for people who've been on my cold email webinars, I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but be personal with your copy. Put yourself in the shoes of the person who's going to be receiving the email. The first thing I'm going to ask if I look at an email, I'm going to ask, is this actually sent to me, or is this actually going out to many other people? If I think for a second that this email was blasted out to thousands of people, to many people, I'm never going to open it, right? Unless it's hyper personalized or something that's really, really valuable for me. I just don't care. So you want to be as personal as you can with your copy. Edit it. Get the red pen out, hack everything, get somebody, a trusted colleague, your wife, your husband, to look at it. You want to make sure that it's natural, because conversion rates really they're affected by this. This is one of the biggest things that I see with emails, aside from these emails being way too long, just not being personalized, not being directly hyper personalized and addressed to your end prospect. So you want to get to the point. Most of these emails are going to be read on the phone. People aren't going to scroll through long emails. So maybe even put your call to action, put it close to the top in the email, not buried down at the bottom. You don't want to waste the prospect's time, right? And then you have the system in place for initial outreach and for the sales follow-up, but you want to personalize the follow-ups as much as you can once you've identified these leads that are tier one, that are really good prospects, right? So whenever you can, if you've qualified these prospects, if they've come through and they've gone through automated sales tasks, and then you have them in the appropriate CRM, if you see that a tier one prospect has looked at your Sell a Business page multiple times, for example, when you reach out, that's where you take the time to do your research. Like, check out their LinkedIn profile, check out their website, find some point of commonality before you reach out to that prospect, because they've already been exposed to your brand. This is not cold, right? They've already gone through this system. They've already gone through the automated sales follow-up strategy. And now you have a chance to really find that point of commonality and get the sit down. Last random point here is what I've seen working really well is leveraging not only your own content, but industry authority content in your outreach. So if you're out there trying to get a contract for selling a business, if you're sharing an article in the Wall Street Journal about exit planning, even though you didn't write that, that's part of proving that you're a qualified authority in the space. You're offering education that's valuable to your end prospect. It shows that you've done your research, you know who they are, and it shows some social proof, because you're out there reading the Wall Street Journal and you're sharing an article on a very niche topic unique to your industry. So that's the first step in the sales follow-up playbook. What I'm planning for the next 4 that we have, January 6th, we're going to focus on the seller's experience, right? From a sales standpoint. So we're going to put ourselves in the shoes of the seller, and they're going to be contacted. Where are they? How do they get from first contact to actually having that cup of coffee with you? What does this look like from their perspective? And how can you design your sales follow-up process to meet that? So not thinking about your outreach from your own perspective, but from your end prospect's perspective. So that's what next week is going to be. After that, January 13th, we're going to get deep on tactics, follow-up tactics. January 20th, we're going to get deep on how to add value and build trust over time, nurturing, right? Once you have these prospects in your funnel, how do you clearly add value? Don't be salesy, build the trust, get yourself in position to get that cup of coffee. And then the last one this month, I'll just go through pros and cons by channel in terms of sales tactics, right? So email versus LinkedIn versus Zoom versus phone versus snail mail, et cetera. So that's the schedule for the month. It's all going to be about sales follow-up and strategy. If you guys have any questions, you can hop in and ask those now. But I've kind of just been operating on the assumption that I'm going to get all of my questions in a flurry after we close this thing out, because that's typically how it works, and I'm fine with that. But if you do have any feedback, please let me know, because we do have this coming down the pipe. These are the topics. If you guys see something that you don't want, let me know. If you can think of something in the sales follow-up category that you do want, let me know. This is what we're going to be focused on in January, and we want to keep this as a back and forth, right? This is a collaboration. So anyways, I don't see any questions now, but it does look like we've had a bunch of people join in the middle of this, which is great. So welcome. Hope it was valuable, and I'll see you all next week. Happy New Year, guys.